highlight, highlight, highlight. So, let's talk about the word highlight. As a verb, it means to give more importance or attention to something by making it stand out, often visually. For example, you might say, the conference organizer decided to highlight the main speaker's presentation, to mean that they made sure everyone knew who was going to be speaking and when. As a noun, a highlight is something that stands out as being especially interesting or important. Such as the highlight of my trip was visiting the Eiffel Tower. It's worth noting that in informal contexts, like social media or text messages, people often use highlight to mean a short video or photo clip that shows an exciting or funny moment. So, while its usage is generally formal, you'll hear it used casually among friends and acquaintances. In a job interview setting, you might say, I'd like to highlight my experience in project management, which has given me a unique perspective on how to bring teams together and drive results. This is an example of formal usage, where the word highlight is used to draw attention to a specific skill or achievement in a professional context. At a dinner party, someone might say, what I really want to highlight from our weekend getaway was the amazing sunset we saw on Saturday. It was truly breathtaking. In this casual conversation example, the person using highlight wants to emphasize and remember the most enjoyable part of their trip. The tone is relaxed and social. In a report or research paper, you might write, the study's key findings highlighted the correlation between environmental factors and economic growth in developing countries. This is an example of business or academic usage, where highlight is used to summarize and draw attention to the main conclusions or results of a study. The context is formal and objective. So, you want to know about this thing that really stands out in a text or presentation. It's something that draws attention to a specific point or idea, making it easy to focus on and remember. The main characteristic of this concept is that it emphasizes something important or interesting, often by using different formatting, colors, or images. You might also hear people refer to it as the main part or the key takeaway. But in language learning, we have a specific word for it. It's what shows up at the beginning of an idea or sentence and is usually written in bold or italics. Implicit, implicit, implicit. So, let's talk about the word implicit as a part of speech. It is an adjective, which means it modifies or describes a noun or pronoun in a sentence. In common usage, implicit generally refers to something that is suggested or implied, but not directly stated. For example, if someone says, she didn't have to say anything, her smile said it all, the happiness and love expressed by her smile are implicit, meaning they're understood without needing to be explicitly mentioned. What's special about this word, though, is that it can sometimes be confused with its antonym, explicit, which means directly stated or clearly indicated. So, if you see a movie rated R for explicit content, that means the content is directly shown, not implied or suggested. And in this context, implicit would mean exactly the opposite, something left to the imagination. In a lecture on cultural differences, the professor noted that the implicit assumption of individualism in Western societies can often lead to misunderstandings with collectivist cultures, where decisions are made through consensus and group input. This highlights how the concept of implicit assumptions can impact international business negotiations. Later, while chatting over coffee with friends, Emma mentioned that she had noticed an implicit bias towards hiring people from her alma mater for a job opening at her company, which made her wonder if this was truly fair to other applicants. Meanwhile, in a meeting with investors, the CEO of Greentech Inc. discussed how their new product's implicit environmental benefits, such as reduced carbon emissions and lower energy consumption, were a major selling point, especially among consumers concerned about climate change. So you're trying to get your head around this concept that's often tricky to put into words? Okay, let me try to break it down for you. When we talk about something being implicit, what we mean is that there are certain ideas or messages that aren't directly stated, but rather understood or assumed by the people involved. Think of it like a hint or a suggestion. Someone might say something that isn't explicitly said, but still conveys a meaning or feeling without needing to be spelled out in full. For example, if you're having dinner with friends and one of them mentions they love your cooking, but doesn't say why, the implicit message is that their food preferences are high on your skills. The main characteristic of something being implicit is that it's not directly stated, but still has an impact or influence on the people around it. Similar concepts like implied or understood can also work in place of implicit. And in everyday conversations, you might hear people talk about getting the vibe or reading between the lines, which are all trying to get at this same idea. As for how it's used, implicit messages can be super important in relationships, communication, and even in our own understanding of ourselves. So getting a feel for what's implicit can really help you navigate life's situations. Induce. 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 Let's talk about the word induce. As a verb, induce means to cause something to happen or exist, often by a specific action or influence. For example, the cold weather induced me to stay indoors. In this sentence, the cold weather is the cause of the speaker staying indoors. Common usage includes inducing someone to do something, like persuading them to take an action, as in, she tried to induce him to join her for dinner. It's also used in medical contexts to describe a procedure that causes something to happen, such as inducing labor or giving anesthesia. One special note about its usage is that induce can sometimes be confused with infect. But the two words have very different meanings. While infect means to catch an illness, induce means to cause something to happen deliberately. So, if someone asks you to induce them to do something, it's likely they mean you're trying to persuade or encourage them. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word induce. In a formal setting, a doctor might say, "The anesthetic was administered to induce unconsciousness before surgery." Here, induce means to bring about or cause a specific state, unconsciousness, for a medical purpose. In casual conversation, you might hear someone say, "I tried to induce my cat to play with the laser pointer, but it just batted at me instead." In this example, induce is used more informally to mean encouraging or persuading something to happen. In this case, the cat playing. In a business or academic context, you might write, "Our company's new marketing strategy is designed to induce customers to switch from our competitors' products." Here, induce means to cause or bring about a specific action or change in behavior. So you want to know about induce? Well, basically, it means to make something happen or bring something into being by creating a certain atmosphere or set of conditions that encourage or persuade others to take a particular action. For example, if a teacher wants students to participate in class discussions, they might create a comfortable and non-judgmental environment to induce them to share their thoughts. It's similar to the concept of persuading or convincing someone, but it often involves making people feel like they're in control of their own decisions. You can think of synonyms like urge, encourage, or even influence, but induce tends to carry a slightly more subtle connotation. In general, when you use the word induce, you're suggesting that someone or something is creating an environment that naturally leads people to take action or make decisions in a certain way.